That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Beanie Bubble, the directorial debut of Kristin Gore and Damian Kulash. It's an Apple original, which will be released limited theatrically on July 21st, 2023, before it will be available to stream on Apple TV July 28th, 2023.
The story, a depiction of the meteoric rise in popularity of Beanie Babies.
Well, we didn't talk about the directors first.
Well, it's a debut, right?
Yep, Kristin Gore, who previously wrote the film War Story for Mark Jackson. She also wrote the novel that Accidental Love was based on, that very compromised David O. Russell film with Jessica Biel and Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't remember if you saw that. Also with Catherine Keener, because War Story does. And Damian Kulash is best known as the lead singer of the band OK Go. I don't know if you remember them. I remember Here We Go Again playing a lot on NPR.
No. Did you like this movie?
It was okay. It's interesting. It's based on the book The Great Beanie Baby Bubble, Mass Delusion, and the Dark Side of Cute by Zach Bissonette.
So for people who don't know, Beanie Babies were these little plush animal toys, and in the 90s were like a sensation. And actually, like, Beanie Babies are credited as like the first internet sensation.
Yes, I mean, I remember them very well. I was a kid. I remember it very well. It was kind of hot on the heels, in my mind, of Tickle Me Elmo.
Okay.
Wasn't that first as like a toy sensation around
Was
that
it?
time?
Oh.
I thought it was, but yeah.
Or like for my age range, like the Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yes, Cabbage Patch Kids, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toys were in there too. But I mean, Beanie Babies was out of control.
Well, I think also the company that sold Beanie Babies were the first like direct to consumer, like online business. So, the story revolves around the people who created it. So the main person, Ty Warner, is depicted by Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, who is a person that's supposedly obsessed with plastic surgery. I didn't really get that from Galifianakis, who does seem transformed, and it's nice to see him kind of outside of that Galifianakis box. But to me, he looks just like Steve Bannon.
When I saw the pictures, I swore it was Jason Bateman.
Oh, from a distance, maybe. Up close and personal, I think he looks like Steve Bannon, maybe with some Michael Douglas 1990s era thrown in there.
So the story's pretty basic, but the narrative is like from the 80s to the 90s. It goes back and forth to culminate with how everything sort of ended. But Zach Galifianakis, Ty Warner, and Elizabeth Banks, who's depicting Robbie.
Robbie Jones.
They were neighbors like in this apartment building and decided to start a company together, and they wanted to make toys.
They wanted to make specifically stuffed Himalayan cats in 1983.
Which they did.
Which they did, and they branched out and made other bigger stuffed toys that were understuffed, so they were posable. That was kind of their thing. And they did well enough and eventually decided to do these miniature versions, the beanies, but those didn't sell right away.
So the two of them have a dispute because Elizabeth Banks' character wants to move into foreign markets and he doesn't want to. So they break up, basically.
He basically undermines her significantly, and she walks.
So that's when Sarah Snook's character and Geraldine Viswanathan. I know I messed that up. I'm sorry.
No,
they come into the picture.
It's Viswanathan, yeah. Maya Kumar. She is introduced. It's told through the perspectives of the three women and kind of how he screws them over. But she's like, I was employee number 12. I was 17. She was in medical school and dropped out as she kind of rose to a prolific status, at least not economically, as his right-hand man, if you will.
So Beanie's Baby become a success, partially due to Maya's input and this idea that making them exclusive would increase the value.
Limited engagement.
So this whole idea about having like these limited edition runs of different Beanie Babies really created a frenzy. But where things kind of go wrong is that because production of these toys was a contentious issue, because keeping them limited and in demand is what kept them valuable. But Ty wanted to just sell more and more and more. And because Maya didn't think that was a good idea, he kind of gets her out of the picture to hire a different person.
He keeps her suppressed. She is gunning to be kind of what we'd call the COO, and he hires an outside man who is good at kind of old school selling salesmanship, and she has kind of shown them outright that if you make this available to everyone anytime they want, the bubble's going to burst. And
So anyway, the bubble burst, but Elizabeth Banks comes back into the picture because the way the story's told, we find out that she had kind of wiggled her way back in because during the time she's gone, Ty Warner gets into a relationship with Sheila.
Played by Sarah Snook, who's a single mother of two.
But Elizabeth Banks' character, Robbie, she wiggles her way back in and sort of seduces Ty to convince him to give her an opportunity to distribute Beanie Babies in foreign markets.
By the time Sarah Snook discovers that he's still seeing his old girlfriend on the side, that's already happened. But she has kind of a cryptic moment where Sarah Snook finds them in a hotel room together, and Robbie's like, she's like, if it doesn't mean anything, I just have to show him who's boss.
So ultimately, Elizabeth Banks' character does end up getting what she deserves, which is a bigger portion of the business. And then in the end credits, we learn that
she is one of the most successful female CEOs.
Do we learn what happened to Ty?
He was convicted of major tax evasion in 2014.
And his character is meant to be eccentric.
He's eccentric, but I think the first portion of the film is better because it allowed me to understand why a woman who looks like Elizabeth Banks might get hot drawers for somebody like Zach Galifianakis in this role, because he's very inviting. He has a kind of certain magic about him. He makes at least these three women, the way he approaches them, he makes them seem special and seen. But he's really a parasite stealing their ideas.
What did you like about this movie?
I always like Elizabeth Banks. I think that she always is good at walking a fine line between, because she's very funny and mischievous, but she also, there's often an inherent sadness I think that she can tap into, and I quite liked her. I think that Geraldine Viswanathan, who you might remember from Blockers, this is going to be a breakout year for her, because she's also in Ethan Cohen's Driveway Dolls, and she was in Cat Person, which premiered at Sundance. I quite liked her, and I think the script which was written by Gore, does a good job of kind of giving her a voice. I like Sarah Snook as well. I think she has less to do, and it's even evident in the end subtitles when we're saying where all these people, what happened to them after this. It's like Sheila made a good life for her daughter. It's like, okay.
Do we know what happened to Maya?
Maya was headhunted, the film shows us, by these Tokyo businessmen to work on Pokemon.
Oh,
and
nice.
she also runs some kind of successful business as well. So it seems like everybody did fine except for Ty Warner, which I guess would be just desserts. This is a film that, again, it's a nostalgia-tinged porn film about a time when culturally in the U.S. We were all kind of funneled into paying attention to all the same things, which is why I think things like this happened. Another Apple film that reminded me, of course, is Tetris, although I think this is much better, or Blackberry from IFC Films. It's a little heavy-handed with musical selections. Like, I don't know, I love the Cranberries and I love the track Dreams, but I don't know that should just be fit into any old place. But that's just me. It's interesting it shows how the trend happened, not only with Maya Kumar's suggestions, but also this group of Chicago mothers who were buying their children Beanie Babies, and the kids at school, their friends started getting jealous, and that caused this kind of explosion, which I think is kind of interesting. So it's a lot of accidental things. I think the film doesn't quite show how nasty Ty Warner could be. There's an early scene where he's at a toy convention roadshow with Robbie, and this heavier woman comes up and he's like, oh, don't let the fatties touch the merchandise because they sweat all over it. And that's why I wish it had felt a little more pronounced about how obsessed he was with plastic surgery. He's even suggesting Sheila get plastic surgery. I don't know that, yeah. At the end of the day, this feels like an inverse to the film A Letter to Three Wives. All three of these ladies needed to be told to just run away from this man. But, each of them were also able to spin off into other things, it seems like.
How did you like the way the movie looked?
It looks fine. Again, right away I was like, oh, I don't like the font of the title. It's trying to tell a familiar type of story in a more intriguing way. So we're running back and forth between, especially 1983 and 1993. We're getting, a juxtaposition of the U.S. under Reaganomics in the background versus Bill Clinton, and a kind of the Clinton's trajectory kind of ties into it as well, because with the bubble bursting, he's also in hot water for the Monica Lewinsky scandal and being impeached. But I don't know. To me, that also felt a little bit zany, like we're being distracted from not dealing with certain things. Like Elizabeth Banks, when we meet her, is working in this auto parts shop, and she's married to a man that is in a wheelchair, apparently due to some kind of devastating accident. And once she becomes romantically involved with Ty Warner, we don't find out what happens to that man, which I think is interesting. It clearly is focusing on certain things, and we're told at the beginning that some of this is made up. They're filling in a lot of holes. Something else we didn't mention is Robbie discovers that Ty Warner is secretly recording everybody.
Oh.
And there's some fun stuff in with that. I think Tracey Bonner as Rose, who's a secretary and has some nice moments with Geraldine, and then Jeremy plays Sarah Snook's Jeremy is Sarah Snook's best friend, played by Carl Clemons. Hopkins. Sorry. I thought he had some nice moments too, but again, it felt in some ways, despite the setup, it is going to be what you expect it to be.
What would you give this movie?
2.5 out of 5.
Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.